All right, remember, question first. What does the team most strongly suggest about conventional ETL fabrication? Again, I haven't read yet, so I don't know what any of that means. But if I had to guess, conventional ETL fabrication is probably different from some sort of new ETL fabrication. But let's see. In a paper about pin planar perovskite solar cells, one of several perovskite cell architecture designed to collect and store solar power, Lindsay describe a method for fabricating the cell's electronic transport layer using a spray coating. Conventional ETL fabrication is accomplished using a solution of nanoparticles. The process can result in a loss of up to 80% of the solution, increasing the cost of manufacturing at scale, an issue that may be obviated by spray coating fabrication, which the researcher is a highly reproducible, concise, and practical. So obviate means like rendered obsolete, meaning it's no longer matters. So it's one of my favorite words. It's a very useful word. None of that really matters though for my question. So what do they suggest is that, I don't know, you lose it, it's expensive, so it needs to be improved. So it's not great, it has flaws. These are kind of dumb summaries. Let's take a look. A, it is less suitable for manufacturing large volumes of planar pin perovskite solar cells than an alternative fabrication method may be. Yeah, because it's not great, because maybe you lose a lot and it costs money. So maybe, I don't know. Notice the word suggest here is forcing me to kind of move a little bit beyond the passage and come up with some sort of inference. I'm kind of good with that, though. I mean, it was saying there's some drawbacks, so maybe if we had some sort of alternative that fixed those drawbacks, we'd be good. Let's look at B. It is more expensive when manufacturing at scale than are processes for fabricating ETLs used in other perovskite solar cell architectures. Maybe. I like that it's more expensive. Conventional is accomplished using a solution of nanoparticles, increasing the cost. An issue which may be obviated in spray coating, which the researchers describe as highly reproducible. I don't know. Let's just move on to C. It typically entails a greater loss of nanoparticle solution than do other established approaches for ETL fabrication. I mean, we don't really talk about other approaches. Maybe at the end here, if we did spray coating, I don't know. That's maybe an alternative, but typically entails a greater loss of nanoparticles. What are we losing? We're losing the solution. So does that mean we're losing the nanoparticles? I just don't love that it says other established approaches. Like, I don't really know anything about other established approaches. Maybe they're all just as bad, and the spray coating thing is just completely new. So I feel pretty good getting rid of this one. D, it is somewhat imprecise and therefore limits the potential effectiveness of pin planar perovskite solar cells at capturing and storing solar power. Well, we said lots of things about it being bad. I don't remember imprecise. It is expensive. That's all I get. It's expensive. So imprecise, not the right word. That just means like it's off. It's not exact, but I don't know what even we're talking about. So it doesn't seem right. All right, now we got to find a wedge here to split A and B because they seem kind of similar to me. It is less suitable for manufacturing large volumes of planar pin perovskite solar cells than an alternative fabrication may be. Right, so the alternative is the spray. So, okay. I mean, that seems true, right? Why the large volumes thing? Because it says manufacturing at scale, right? So that's not coming out of nowhere. That means you're making it at scale means and in a big way, a large scale. So, okay. Because you're losing all this stuff. Maybe, let's look at B again. It is more expensive when manufacturing at scale than are processes for fabricating ETLs using other perovskite. So to me, this is where the wedge idea really comes in. These are so similar. They're both saying one thing that's really good. They're both saying it's less suitable because it costs more. And this just says here, it costs more. We're talking about at scale. We're talking about large volumes. Okay, so where's my difference? My difference is down here. An alternative fabrication method may be, or other solar cells. What are we trying to change? Are we trying to change the way that we make the thing, or are we trying to change the thing we make? Right? We're making these pin perovskite solar cells, so the pin one is all that matters. So that's what's wrong with B, is it's talking about other types of solar cells. That's not the comparison that the passage is making. The comparison in the passage is between two methods of making one particular type of solar cell. Choice A is getting to that because it's changing the method, not the cell. B is changing the very thing that we're making, not how we make it. So I didn't notice it at first. I was just getting lost in those words because they didn't seem important to me. But the words that did stand out seemed to overlap between A and B. So I was just like, all right, we'll worry about this later. And the idea of that is I was able to filter out C and D. And then when I'm left with two choices that seem very similar, obviously there is something different about them. Let's try to drive a wedge between them, split them apart, focus on things that are similar and kind of ignore it, but also then find the things that are different. And it's subtle, but it's definitely A. It's definitely A, right? We're talking about different methods of making this one thing, not different things entirely. So it's sneaky, especially because notice that B says the word expensive, which is a much more like, I don't know, happy word for me, because that's kind of what they really focused on here, right? It's cost. So they're trying to lure you in by really focusing on that idea. But A includes that idea in a more vague way, right? It is less suitable for manufacturing. Why is it less suitable? Because of the cost. That is a classic SAT move, is to try to distract you with adjectives that are just much better in other wrong answers. So the right answer has a much more vague way of talking about the same thing. You've got to get used to that. Otherwise, you'll always fall for the trap and pick something like B.